Monday could be crucial for the Auburn Tigers at SEC Media Days for several different reasons.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me in Atlanta, we're here at the Omni in Atlanta, checked in at SEC Media Days. It is Montgomery radio legend, the Darrell Dapprich. And as we kind of feel the energy start to build, some of it is a Beyonce concert that's apparently happening, but also SEC Media Days, the buzz is real. You're seeing all the SEC signage everywhere. It just means more, Darrell Dapprich. Monday could be big for Auburn, even though they go Tuesday, for a few different reasons. One of which, Greg Sankey, who kicks off the whole thing, SEC commissioner, he has the chance to back up what Hugh Freeze and John Cohen have been saying about rev share and NIL. And there's kind of been conflicting reports from national media on if they're right or not. Greg Sankey could really back up Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers if he says, yeah, this is kind of the way it's supposed to be.
Before we came out here, I was thinking about what an interesting talking point that Greg Sankey would have. What would it be this year?
It's got to be rev share. It has to be.
And it's rev share. And then I got to thinking about and connecting the dots that if he comes out and honestly talks about it like we've heard behind the scenes, it will set the tone from an Auburn standpoint for the rest of the media days as far as the questions that Hugh Freeze may get. It may lessen the blow if he comes out and talks about the August 1st date and talks about committable offers and pen to paper and all that kind of thing. That is going to, in my opinion, take some of the questions that the media I think would be just absolutely jumping at. Correct. To get at Hugh Freeze. So it is very crucial, and it's a little bit more Auburn-centric than it normally is as far as people paying attention to what Sankey has to say.
Yeah, I think so, because the three things that you could kind of throw at Hugh Freeze that we were speculating going into it, one of them is recruiting, because that's kind of been his strength. That's what he's been able to hold on to. And now that that's been tied to revenue sharing, there's been questions on the legitimacy of him being able to recruit as far as this specific class goes. He came out and said why. It makes sense. It lines up. And there's just differing opinions on what exactly the rules are when it comes to rev share. And the talking points for Sankey, I think he's going to be asked a lot about rev share. And then I'm sure the schedule stuff is going to come up, 8 games versus 9 games. I just feel like that's been a topic every year for the last 5 years. And I think most people want more SEC games. I'm sure there's an argument for 8. I'm not going to push back on that, but I think that'll come up on Monday. But to me, from the Auburn point of view, it's all about rev sharing. And does Greg Sankey, is he passive about it and say, well, we got to wait and see? Or does he come out and say, this is what I believe the rules are. This is what we've been told. Do with that what you will.
In years past, there's been expansion conversations that come up that he's really dumbed that down. There's been the 8-game, 9-game schedule. All those things affect Auburn indirectly. What he says tomorrow could affect Auburn directly. Yeah. And that's the difference
today.
Today. And that's the difference between what he's talking about and what could come up and that kind of thing. It's a really more of a solid line rather than a dotted line to what Auburn wants.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. As far as other things Sankey could talk about that might impact Auburn, I wonder if Auburn would be brought up specifically when he's asked / chooses to talk about the rev share. I'm also curious to see if he's aggressive or passive or not. I mean, he's not really been one to shy away from the main topics. He seems to read the room pretty well and not shy away from it. I mean, he knows he's going to be asked about it, so why not just go ahead and prepare a statement? I mean, normally his stuff is pretty jam-packed with info as far as, this ever-changing landscape of college football. But I wonder if that comes up on his own, if he brings it up in his, presentation. And then also just the aspect of Hugh Freeze and John Cohen have kind of tied themselves to this at this point, right? As far as being the first to publicly say, what we're offering, what we believe to be by the rules is way less than everybody else. hopefully August 1st, this date where everything has to be can officially be submitted. Hopefully that saves us. I'm curious if that's specifically brought up through the context of Auburn and Hugh Freeze and John Cohen.
I think you make a great point. Is he going to address it in his opening statements before it even get asked, where he'll put that to bed? That's
real quick. Do you think he will? I think he will.
I think he will.
I think he has to.
I think he will address that before he even gets asked the question. He's going to address the big elephant in the room. And probably, again, some of the media that would ask questions today about that may get those questions answered in his opening statements. Sure. He also likes to go on the offensive sometimes and come across very, very firm and very
he's proactive,
deliberate.
Not reactive.
Yes. He was that about expansion, like I mentioned before, about the 8 or 9 game schedule, to a certain extent where you can tell he takes some of that stuff really personal, which is okay. It's his, and not in a bad way. I mean, there's a passion about it that he has got skin in the game.
Well, is there a larger name in college athletics as far as influence in Greg Sankey right now?
No, not right now.
Which I think is part of the issue of all of this. If he made Greg Sankey like the leader of college football, I think we have less issues, but he's just the leader of the SEC, which is the leader of college football. But, obviously he's limited. And I think that's where a lot of this, I think he's going to be limited by the scope of his position, and I think that's going to be a common theme we hear from him when he kicks things off on Monday. That's my guess.
I agree, and I think there'll be follow-up questions, and there'll be deeper dives, and that's going to be interesting to me to see how deep he wants to go, how much he wants to reveal in some of those questions, how customized it becomes, or is it going to be just really a generic type scenario where he just covers it from a 1,000-foot view?
Yeah, and I mean, he is going to be asked about expansion, or he may just bring it up on his own. I expect the answer to be literally the exact same as it was last year, where hey, we're not shutting anything down, but we're the SEC. We're the SEC. People come to us. We don't go to them. That was kind of his language last year, if I remember correctly. I kind of think we'll see the same for that, which I think there's arguments both ways if Auburn benefits from an expanded SEC or not. I think it depends on who you bring in and what it does to the schedule and what it does geographically. But that's obviously a lot more loaded of a topic than what we have time for.
I wonder if there's going to be any surprises. Is there going to be something he talks about or something that gets revealed or something that he hints at that just comes totally out of left field?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way Texas and Oklahoma were that feels like a lifetime ago now. Heck, it was still in Birmingham when that happened, which is just kind of seems like a different world now.
There wasn't a lot of pink cowboy hats walking around in Birmingham.
What is your favorite Beyonce song?
Do I even know?
I mean, the one that comes to mind is All the Single Ladies.
That's the one I was going to say. The Put a Ring
one
on It song, which is just All the Single Ladies.
Halo is her, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are the only two I really know. So I guess by default it's that. So Monday, so that's pretty much Monday morning. Also, LSU and South Carolina go Monday morning, whatever. Auburn doesn't play those two teams. Monday afternoon could be obnoxious for Auburn. Obnoxious. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Can you imagine being in Atlanta and not having a ticket to the Beyonce concert?
I bet a lot of people here got their tickets, Beyonce tickets through Game Time.
How many SEC media members got here and they're like, oh, Beyonce's in town. Or, oh, I'm going to go to the All-Star stuff this weekend. I'm going to pull up Game Time.
Yeah.
Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off my first order.
The All-Star stuff's more up my, that's more.
I mean, that's essentially what we did last year, right?
Last year,
right?
Fold it up. That's right.
You can see the view from your seat, all that good stuff. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets, All-Star tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We are in Atlanta here at SEC Media Days. Monday's going to be fun. Commissioner Sankey is going to blast us with information. Monday afternoon is going to be annoying. Let's just go ahead and get it out there. Ole Miss and Vandy. How many times over under are we going to hear about Diego Pavia beating Auburn and Alabama last year? Over under 300,000.
Oh, it's going to be a big topic, and it's going to be from all media, whether it's Auburn or Alabama media or other media that enjoys seeing that happen from outside the state.
Sure.
It's
a fun storyline
question.
because Vandy's always been that like lovable loser, right?
Right.
I am interested to see like if the tone shifts, and like I'm pretty sure it's like Diego Pavia is not afraid to say stuff. So like I do think the tone will shift, but people forget like Auburn goes to Vandy, and I think a lot of people are talking about that 5-game stretch, between Georgia and the Iron Bowl, that I think all those games are extremely winnable. You and I believe that they've got a shot at winning those 5 games. I think Vegas will favor Auburn in a lot of those games, but it does feel kind of funny to say that when Diego Pavia has beaten Auburn the last 2 years.
He has, and I think that and neither one of them were fluky. Now, the game last year, he did not have a particularly good game at all. That they won that game in spite of Diego Pavia.
Well, we scored 7 points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but Auburn did a really good job, I think, of containing him last year. Go look at the stats. He did not have a good game. 2 years ago, he single-handedly beat Auburn.
I mean, it was incredible.
When he was with New Mexico State.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So I would say the law of averages, I think Auburn's defense is better this year than it has been the last 2 years.
Top end for sure.
I know it's in Nashville. I know it's at Vanderbilt, but I think that the fact that this is year 3, it's going to be very difficult.
We play well in Nashville.
And it's difficult to beat
have.
a team. A team beating a team 3 times is difficult. A player beating a team 3 times, especially when you know that it's a situation where he's got their attention. So
yeah, I think tape is going to catch up with him, and I think nobody's going to take them for granted anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, which Auburn shouldn't have last year. They had beaten Bama a few weeks prior. That should not have been a thing, but obviously it was. Ole Miss is going to be interesting. Now, Auburn doesn't play Ole Miss this year. Sadly, I wish they did. I think that rivalry was really blossoming, and then the SEC just took it away from us. But Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze have kind of always been tied to each other. Lane Kiffin, taking stabs at, Hugh Freeze's golf game on Twitter last week or the last few days or so. Somehow, some way that Auburn's going to be brought up, whether it's him doing it on his own or him being asked a question. I know you asked him about it last year.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of interesting because those two, I don't know. It's just they've been tied.
What's interesting to me is that he basically told, when I asked the question last year, he looked me in the eye and said, "I'm going to stop doing that." That Hugh Freeze is one of the first people that called me when my dad died, and I really shouldn't be doing that. And then, whatever it is, like anything else in Lane Kiffin's life, you can't believe what he says within a year. So I guess my whole comment on that is, if Hugh Freeze wanted to be petty, within 3 days of Lane Kiffin saying that, he lost 2 of his top assistants, a recruiting guy and a general manager. So I would have loved to just seen, and I'm petty, I would have tweeted back out, instead of worrying about my golf game, worry about your staff.
Yeah, which a few years ago, I think those 2 roles would have just been like, okay, whatever. Now with GMs in today's version of college football, I think it's going to vary program by program and head coach by head coach, but those are much larger positions than they were even 2 years ago.
And the ironic part too, and this is what nobody knows or wants to believe or wants to see, as much as Hugh Freeze has been maligned for this golfing thing, there have been others behind the scenes, many, that have criticized Lane Kiffin for how much he's at the beach and fishing and doing things like that. So, if you're going to say something about golfing, let's talk about being on the fishing boat, deep sea fishing. It's the perception is you're not doing your job because you have something else that's distracting you. And I think that's the furthest from the truth in both examples.
It's hilarious. It's, just the double standard of all that. And you're seeing other people kind of speak up against that. But my biggest thing with Freeze is you can golf. I just don't know if you need to log it every time, especially if it's something you can.
That was the other thing that we know, that there's a lot of people that golf but that just don't log their scores because it's a bad look.
Yeah, I don't.
Just don't log your scores.
I'm not a golfer, so I don't really know what the normal practice is. But it sounds like several people don't log every time they go play around.
If you've seen my scores, you know why I would never log my scores.
Sure. I understand the arguments to get a more accurate handicap and all that, but I just don't know. Anything else for later today with LSU, South Carolina, Vandy, or Ole Miss that we haven't touched on that you're interested in?
The South Carolina one's going to be interesting because I really believe Shane Beamer likes to speak his mind, and there's some things in the off seasons that have happened that have bothered him a little bit with the seller situation. And if we're going to have an NIL conversation and a revenue sharing conversation, I wonder if someone's going to ask him, all right, coach, tell me about the school that came after your quarterback for $8 million and how that makes, obviously he's never going to reveal the school, but that was a hot button. That was a topic that he was extremely upset about. Will he do like Eli Drinkwitz did a couple years ago and use that as a platform to speak out against it publicly?
Do you believe that that's true? Do you believe that an SEC school offered him $8 million?
I have no way of knowing in this day and age of NIL. I would
just
suspect
seems like
no.
a really high number.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit outlandish. But I mean,
one of the largest reported deals this transfer portal this offseason was Mensa going from Tulane to Duke, and that one was $4 million. And everybody's like, what? And you're saying it's like double that?
Yeah.
That just seems like a lot. That seems like a lot. I don't know. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'd love to know more about that story, assuming it's true, for sure.
Yep. And maybe he gets asked that, and maybe that's a topic of
how great would it be if he just came out and said the school name? That would be electric.
The other thing too,
you want to set the internet on fire? That's how you do it.
Yeah. A lot of people have in the offseason put Hugh Freeze in their crosshairs. I think Brian Kelly has had some people come out with him and say, he's got under a little bit of pressure at LSU.
Maybe.
Does that get brought up? How does he respond to that? LSU's always going to be a story, and he obviously is the one that took Lane Kiffin's general manager of recruiting from him,
right?
And he's now at LSU. So, will that topic come up since they go the same day?
It could.
Instead of worrying about golfing, maybe you, like I said, talk about what Brian Kelly poached one of your best coaches.
Yeah, one of the biggest names in the SEC, Nussmeier. I think he's the best quarterback in the conference. He will be my QB1 when we vote for SEC. What is that called?
The All-SEC team.
All-SEC team. Yeah, Nussmeier will be QB1. Lenore's will be QB2, actually. So both of those guys will go on Monday. So overall Auburn chatter, like what do we expect to hear just from other sources, from other media members about the Auburn Tigers? That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. For your second listen, Locked On Auburn. Odds are we've got another show. We're going to post so many shows this week. So thank you so much for hanging out with us throughout SEC media days. I'm fascinated by all the differing opinions that you're going to see about these Auburn Tigers. So many folks throughout the offseason say, hey, this is a top 25 roster. This is a top 25 team with a very manageable schedule. You can expect higher things than maybe what we've seen over the last few seasons. We better hope. And there's going to be other people that have just totally punted on Hugh Freeze. And I do think it's interesting how I think more national media seems to like Auburn a little bit more than SEC-focused media, because it seems like SEC-focused media has something against Hugh Freeze.
Or they know more of the inner workings than some of the
maybe so.
I've told you before, some of the national media, when they cover certain teams, are a little bit lazier about it. They read things, they look at things.
Or they get invited. It's the total opposite.
Yeah, SEC media and the SEC has come to the games. They lay their eyeballs on Auburn's roster.
Yep.
They've seen them the last 2 or 3 years, so they have a little bit more inner working knowledge of that.
Right.
I love the roster. Had the opportunity a couple days ago to speak with Andy Burcham about it. He was very, very honest and transparent, saying it's one of the best Auburn rosters he's seen in a while. He felt like it was one of the best offensive lines and receiving rooms that Auburn had since Tuberville.
Yeah.
And I respect.
And if that's true, that's enough.
And that's enough.
That's enough.
So I just think there is a look. To me, this was about roster retention. When you talk about revenue sharing, NIL, whatever, it was crucial.
Sure.
That Auburn had roster retention this year, and they did it in the portal, and they did it with retaining their existing players that came back from last year. If that's true, and if that's the approach they took, then the media, that's the national media, is onto something with that. They understand, but the SEC media is like, we've heard this before. We've seen this before. We've seen what's happened the last 2 or 3 years.
It's just interesting, certain certain programs get that benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. I was listening to a podcast on the way in talking up A&M. I don't disagree with them. I think A&M's got a good roster. I really like Marcel Reed. I think Elko has overachieved, I think, in his short time at A&M. But, I mean, it's like, this happens this time every offseason about Texas A&M. And they've never done it. I do think there's something tangibly different about Auburn's situation that we haven't seen about Auburn since 2019, 2017 for sure. If you want to argue 2019 as far as like upside of the roster, I'm fine with it. But still, it's been 5 or 6 years. And I think with A&M, it's kind of the same thing. I think Marcel Reed has more upside than, some of those other guys that who was their quarterback for forever. I'm blanking on his name. Went to the Vikings for a little bit.
Oh, you said went to the who?
I think he went to the Vikings for a little bit. It was before Wegman. He was there for forever. Can't remember. But regardless, like I do think they have higher upside at quarterback than they have had. But to me, it's still like Auburn is in a different spot than they have been in a half decade.
True. And they're in a different spot than they have been, I think, at critical positions that weren't recruited very well for years. We've talked about how long it took to develop a high school quarterback.
Kellen Mond is who I'm thinking of.
Yes, Kellen Mond. And we've talked about what...
Haven't said that in a minute. Never thought I would say the word Kellen Mond again. Never thought that would happen.
Yeah, he was very highly touted, wasn't he? The offensive line.
He was, though. He was highly touted, and then it was just like, that's who he was. After like 2 years, it's like, that's who Kellen Mond is. But every offseason, there was a discussion of like, he could take that step. He's got the roster. Jimbo's the greatest coach in the world when it comes to quarterbacks. It's like he had 1 year. He had 1 year with Jameis.
And ironically, Calzada was the quarterback after Kellen Mond before Wegman for a year.
Yeah.
Or half a year.
How wild is it that he's not being brought this week? Marcel Reed and Calzada not being brought this week.
The Marcel Reed one really surprises
me. It's bizarre. It's so strange.
I think he has a ton of upside.
I'm with you. There are some people that think like dark horse for Heisman type stuff. And I'm like, he's got the upside and the potential. Like, I totally get it. So, yeah, I was surprised by that as well.
He could be this year's Lenora Sellers from last year. We're kind of
100%
explodes on the
100% agree with you.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a Marcel Reed truther. I get it. All right. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer that day one only one Auburn opponent goes, but that's okay. And it's Vanderbilt, which is a very important game. I know we don't want to
but the Sankey storyline and
huge.
The Ole Miss storyline will still have direct ties to Auburn.
You're right. And once again, we just kind of glossed over the scheduling thing, but we're assuming Auburn will play all of these schools next year, which, you talk about the upward trend of like LSU and South Carolina and Ole Miss, it's just going to get tougher. Auburn's got to win this year. It's been very clear.
And because with the way Auburn's played the last 4 years, in 10 and 22 in the SEC, it's almost ironic saying this, but the only thing that gets better for you when they flip this schedule is that you get Mississippi State on the schedule, who didn't win an SEC game last year.
Yeah, you'd rather play Mississippi State than Vandy. Sure.
I'd rather play Mississippi State than Kentucky. I'd rather play absolutely.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But I'd rather play Vandy and Kentucky than Mississippi State and South Carolina and Florida.
And LSU. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yep.
It's tough for sure. How can people check out everything you've got going on and follow along with you this week?
You can follow me on X, DAP6410, and
yes.
then just keep checking YouTube, keep checking how you like and subscribe, and Twitter accounts to see how much content we'll be putting up.
Yeah, hopefully it's a lot. If the internet works, it will be a lot. So once again, like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.